Well, Heather, thank you so much for being here with me. I am so excited to speak with you, and I just absolutely love your energy and just want to thank you for accepting to come on over and allow me to just hear your story and just interview you. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. I love your energy. Real recognizes real, girl.
Girl, yes. Oh,
Yeah.
I
It's
love
always
that.
a great elevated vibe when you and I are together. The whole room is like, what are these girls up to?
Yeah, no, most definitely. And I love that. Thank you so much for the compliment. I absolutely receive it, and I'm giving it to you back, girl. There is so much energy, so much beauty, and so much love within you. So, yes, thank you.
Oh, thank you. I love you.
The reason why I wanted to interview you was because I absolutely love you. And what I mean by that is because your energy is so bright, you're so uplifting. Whenever you're around, there's just like a lot of love and a lot of energy. And I'd love to get to know your story. Like, how did you get to that point where like you just decided, I'm gonna be happy, I'm gonna be freaking awesome, and I'm just gonna be a light and just a source of love?
I think it's the process, right? Like we go through, everybody's got their stuff that they go through, right? And it's not what happens to us, it's how we handle it and what we do with this darkness, maybe we could say. And yeah, so I've experienced some really hard times where I was just questioning, like, what am I doing? What am I up to? Why is this happening to me, right? This like mentality. And I think the journey of like meditation and reading lots of books, like spiritual texts like Deepak's and Michael Singer's, like Eckhart Tolle's, like these books that kind of bring you to the present moment of acceptance. And I truly believe that I just try to accept and adapt. Like whatever it is, I'm gonna accept the reality of the situation and I'm gonna adapt to it. And I think it's a huge skill and it takes a lot of hardship to even develop this. And so not to look at our struggles or the things that happen that are not so sexy, not to look at them like but to look at them like okay I'm gonna go for it. Yeah. I'm gonna keep fighting, right? And I always wanted to have a story of resilience. I knew that like for example, my sister has a different story and we grew up the same way, but I took a different path and she took a different path. And it's so reflective, like I chose to own it all. And I did not run from it. I did not, I felt ashamed, but I dealt with that shame in a constructive way, through fitness and through meditation and just these practices that really support your truth.
Yeah, I love what you said about acceptance. This is like a concept that I just started to really own. Because at the beginning it was more of like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening. Like, I want to change it immediately, right? and I didn't until recently, like this last year, where I started really kind of dancing with acceptance, and was really like, what is acceptance about? Like, what does that look like? And the conclusion that I came to was acceptance is all about just accepting where you're at, not fighting reality. What happened. What is. How do we shift? How do we move? Because I found that every time I was fighting against my reality, I suffered, and a lot.
Yeah.
Walk me through a little bit in the boxing ring. Does that also apply? Like, you accept the punch and then go after it?
Yeah, it's so, boxing is so synonymous to life. Like, life is throwing punches all day, especially these past few years. Like, life is throwing big punches that really hurt. But to be able to take the punch and know that you're going to have your shot to throw a punch, or you might not, or it might not be your day. You might lose that round, but you still get in there and fight. And I think Brene Brown was the one that made it famous about Winston Churchill's quote about being in the arena. And if you're not in the arena fighting like these old Romans when they would just battle to the death, then I don't even want to talk to you, because you're not willing to risk everything for your one thing, for your truth, So letting life come at you with whatever it's going to come at you, but also standing your ground and throwing back.
Come at me, bro. I love it. And I also love what you said about resilience, like resilience. Like, this is how do you become resilient? Because I find that sometimes when life does punch at you, it can really hurt, and it can really knock you down and feel like, I can't freaking do this anymore. Like, I can't do this. In your experience, how do you feel people can become resilient?
It's really different for everybody. It's so different for every single person. But I think practice makes perfect. So when we meet these challenges, and all the little ones, right? Like the challenge of maybe like doing something that you necessarily don't want to do, right? Like foregoing instant pleasure for like the long-term goal, you know? And so I believe that it's a practice. Resilience is a practice where you don't give up, you know, even on the littlest things. Like, I don't want to finish this ab workout, it hurts, you know, but you don't, and those add up, you know, day after day. Those resilient practices hardwire your brain to say, okay, I remember when something was really hard, that ab workout, for example. Now this thing that I have to meet, I get it, it's hard, but I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And I think the most important thing is your mental space, your mentality, and what attitude we have when we approach these challenging situations. And so just training your mind through the practice of meditation, I think, is the fast track into resilience, meditation. And just making a commitment, like when you know something's going to be hard, like, oh, you're about to enter a hard conversation with someone, maybe a breakup, or you're going to leave a job or something, right? You know it's going to be challenging, but to set an intention before, like, when I arrive at this challenging position, I'm going to not back down, or I'm going to stand my ground and be fully in my power, and to only accept the expression of my truth. Yeah, so I think like meeting things head on, and evaluating, a little bit of reflection, where if you do, you know, succumb to giving up, or you feel less resilient, you feel like kind of stuck or something, just saying, like, turning your mind back to your intention of overcoming and having a purpose behind it. Like, I had the purpose of, when I was in college, I was an IT major. I was going to be the #1 female cybersecurity analyst. Like, I wanted to shatter that glass ceiling of just men in this industry. And so, like, with that intention, it drove my my spirit way higher. Like, I just wanted to, I had that vision, and I kept my eyes on it, and I was like, no matter what happens, no matter if that guy gets the job before I get it, I'm still coming right after you, you know?
Yeah. No, I wow. Something that you said that so powerfully struck me was intention, because also that's something that I've been practicing a lot, like in everything that I do. Like, what's my intention? What am I here to accomplish? What's the purpose of this? What's and is it aligned? Is it aligned with my intention? Because what I find is that when I don't set an intention for something, then I kind of feel all over the place, and I feel like I'm going nowhere, right? And I love what you said about, like, in a conversation, if you're going into a difficult conversation, like, what's your intention? And I think that's like the end goal. And no matter where it goes, like, you can always come back to your intention, to like that groundingness of like, this is what I said, this is what I intended, this is what I set out to do, and this is what's going to keep me on course.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it can be challenging to set intention. Like, so I like to start intention with, I choose, or today my intention is to be. So like a state of being. So not necessarily like, today I'm gonna, you know, write this, or I'm gonna clean this. Like, it's a state of being. Like, I'm going to feel, or I'm going to be like this. And our body recognizes these emotional pathways and these feelings. And so tying it back to having a state of being for your intention, like, when I go into this difficult conversation, I'm going to be I'm going to just be in my truth. And you know, your body knows what that feels like for you. And so it's harder to get away from when you already set the course for yourself. So just, staying committed to it and keeping your eyes on the finish line.
Yeah, I love that, man. Words of a champion. Words of the wise. I love it. So Heather, what about like, do you, can you share with us a moment in your life that almost broke you, that you feel that almost broke you, where you were just like, I am not I can't do this anymore. I don't know how I'm going to come back from this. If you're okay with it.
Yeah, a lot of things came up, girl.
What's the first one that came up?
The first one that came up that kind of like catalyzed this whole fitness thing too is that I was in a situation where a man was not being right to me. I was like really, not being right. And I felt helpless and I felt weak. And I just decided from that moment that nobody's going to make me feel weak. Nobody's going to make me feel like I can't defend myself, that I can't, that I'm not strong, right? That I'm not able to handle my own energy, because like in those situations, it's a give and take. I'm not saying anybody is to blame, but I'm saying that I knew in that moment that there needed to be a shift and I was responsible for it. We call in this energy and I never say like, I'm never going to be like, hold grudges or like say this happened to me, woe is me. I'm always like, God presented this to me, source spirit presented this to me for me to learn more about myself, for my self-discovery. So I never like regret things. I always take it like a lesson. And it can be kind of crazy, like, oh yeah, that had to happen to me in order for me to come to this moment. But I believe it to be true that these things are their divine guidance saying, hey, like you found yourself, you called this energy to yourself. Now, what are you going to do with it? And some people might repeat the pattern, might repeat the loop, might find another guy that does the same thing. Or you might get into boxing and make sure that no one messes with you. Or, like get into a better situation, or to call different energy to you, or to accept never that again, accept none of that ever again.
What a powerful way to live. I really align with what you said about like I can choose how I see the situation. Like, do I become a victim to my situation, or do I take it by the horns and say, what's the lesson in the situation that I get to take from it and take it on so that I can up-level my life?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. And I can totally relate, because there was a point in my life too that I felt really, really beaten up and like I just couldn't do it anymore. And at that time, I wasn't in the relationship that I wanted to be in. And I remember, like, at first, I came from a blame, like, putting blame on the other person. And then things didn't change in my internal world until I looked at what was the role that I played. And even though I'm not forgiving the behavior, or I don't condone the behavior, it doesn't mean that I can't forgive the person, like, for not being in their own true essence, right?
Or even forgive ourselves for being there, like I'm not forgiving no man, never ever, but I will forgive myself for allowing the situation to become what it became,
Right.
Still got work to do.
And I think it's a journey, it's a process. I think we all want to do our own healing so that we come out more empowered on the other side, so we're not a victim to our situation, to our circumstances, because it can be so easy to be there. And I've been there, I've been there where I almost let life defeat me, and it was like, no, until I really started owning my power and really seeing like, hey, this is not who I am. Like, this is not my essence. This is not my truth. It's just there was a lesson that I needed to learn here, and I get to learn it and then move forward and up level myself in all areas.
Yeah, it goes back to the acceptance, the accepting the situation, and the people that really want the work are like you and I, where we say, okay, let's, take a step back from this. And I think that's really important, is to be the observer of the situation. We get so close to it that we're feeling it so heavily, but when we can step outside of it and just observe it for like what we say, like it is what it is, like
It is what it
this.
is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. I love what you said about being the observer too, because I once did this powerful exercise too, where I was like, I kind of observed my life from being just from the observer perspective, where I was like, what was the reason this happened to Wendy? What was the reason she went through that? And as the observer and someone who was narrating her story, I can see why that happened to her. And it was such a powerful exercise, because I felt like it's what shaped her to become who she is becoming. So I love that concept of just becoming the observer of your life. Like, hey, why is that happening? And what's the lesson that you can learn from it?
Yeah, and just getting a zoom out. Like, I like to think of it, because it can be challenging to even be the observer, especially if you don't practice meditation often. Like for someone that is kind of just starting out on their journey, like I like to think of myself in the middle of a football field, and then me in the blimp above it, and just like watching the play, watching it go on. So like that little visual thing is like the first one that really helped me become that observer, where I was like, okay, zoom, because I don't know about you, but I've been to some football games. You can feel the stadium, and like you could see the players down there, and you can also see that blimp up there. And so pulling yourself out and just watching the play be made, like you said, like, okay, Wendy went here, this is what happened. It's a good like introduction to becoming that observer.
Yeah. So when you started observing your life and what you were going through, that's when it really put things into perspective for you?
Yeah, like what we talked about, like having that breaking point of being just like fed up with your reality. Like, this reality is not serving me, I'm not pleased with this, and I know that I am worth so much more. If I just give it to myself, I deserve it. We all do, really. We all do. So yeah, like having like these points in our life that are really pivotal, develop these practices that are going to serve you long term. I mean, this was over 10 years ago. This was a long time ago, and so and since then, this has been the practice, the observer. And it takes days and weeks and months of finding that seat of the observer and returning back to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. Well, thank you for sharing that with me. I know for allowing us just to see what the journey was like for you. Yeah, so you and I met at the Fit Expo.
Oh my gosh. Wow.
Yeah.
That's like so long ago. I can remember now. You got into the ring, girl.
Yes. So you and I met at the Fit Expo, and what originally attracted me to you was just your vibrancy, right? The way that you just showed. And I remember something that I think I was so excited, and I accidentally almost hit you. Was that it? Yeah. Yeah,
girl. I'm like, over here, not right here.
I'm so sorry. And you didn't dislike me for it, so
no.
Yeah. Oh man, I kind of wanted to bring in people onto like how we met. But yeah, that's how I met Heather, and she was amazing. She was just so loving, and I initially felt her energy. I was like, yes, I want her in my life.
Girl. I know. I remember you rolling up. We had like that booth and we had the whole ring there, and you rolled up. I was like, let's get in the ring, girl. Let's put on some gloves and party. Yeah, yeah. And it's okay to be the beginner, right? And I don't hold it against you at all.
Yeah.
It brought us to today, right?
Yeah.
There's a practice of resilience. Like if I had been someone that takes these things personal, or, you know, like was like, oh, I don't want to work with her because she's wild or whatever. You know, like I'm like, no, like there's some energy in there. We gotta smooth out the edges and make this little diamond.
Yeah, I love that. Like harness the energy. Like, yeah, I think because we're all energy balls, right? Like we're all just very very active energies, and we get to harness that energy and really mold it into something really beautiful.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes. And you've become a beautiful boxer, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I'm still working on my jabs and all that stuff.
You got it in you, girl.
Still trying to be in sync with my body, but you know, I'll get there.
It's just practice, like all things.
I love it. And so there's a question. This is a question that I would love to ask you. And since we were talking about resilience, it's okay. So if you had the chance, I want to get this question right. If you had the opportunity to put a message in a time capsule that would go out to the past version of you, to that version of you that was really going through it, you know, where life was just like giving her like a really hard time, what would that message say? Like, what would that message contain?
Excellent question. And I'll start with that I often find myself making decisions based off being who I needed when I was in a hard spot, when I was younger. I try to always think about this version of myself. And so the message in the capsule would be, oh my God, so many good ones. That first and foremost, that you are worthy of all your desires, of all of your dreams. You're worthy of everything. Anything you can think of is attainable. Like you can do anything. These 4 words are really important to me. I repeat them all the time. You can do anything. But I would tell her that if she keeps going, she will be so proud. The future you is really proud of the way you kept going and you didn't stop.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Yeah. I love it. It's, yeah. I find that a lot of people, and in my experience, what I've observed, a lot of women, you know, struggle with this unworthiness feeling. I know for me that was very true. Like underneath all the protective layers of me being this tough person, oh man, I was just this person who didn't believe that I was worthy.
It's all of us, right? It's like a condition from when we're babies. They're like, don't do this and do this, and this isn't okay, and you can't have that toy or whatever. It's like, gosh, just live our innate being is worthy of it all. And I think that like connection to source or to the energy that you see as the highest up will really feed that worthiness, you know? Yeah, and like it's totally normal. I want people to understand, like it is totally normal to have this feeling of unworthiness, but to direct that understanding in a way that will bring you to your highest worth, you know? Like for me, like this past month has been crazy. Some crazy health things happened that really woke me up to how I've been mothering myself and how I've been treating myself. And I wasn't giving myself, you know, proper rest, always proper nutrition, but maybe like too much, you know, like I'm going to have that mocha cheesecake, 2 of them, please.
So much stuff for me.
Because I'm so worthy. Yeah, we get tied up in these, you know, these other these other things that are like a veil of worthiness, when it's truly just within us to give ourselves whatever it is that we need in the moment. You know, it's going to shift from day to day, but in the moment, giving ourselves what we need, and really treating ourselves like children. You know, like if we can think about the earliest memories that we have, like what, like, would we expect a 8-year-old Heather to, if she said, oh, I'm so unworthy, we would be like, what are you talking about? You know, like when we speak to a child, it's so different. But now that we're full grown adults and there's all this pressure of being and having and doing, we get lost in the sauce, and it doesn't taste good.
Yeah.
And so just like bringing it back and reminding ourselves that we wouldn't put this type of pressure on a child or ourselves as a child. And so there's no reason to have it on ourselves, because we are these childlike beings still. We just am growing a little more.
Yeah. No, definitely. And that really resonates with me, because I do feel like we all have this childlike being, and whenever we try to shut that part of ourselves down, it's when we suffer. It's when I've suffered in my experience too, that whenever I've tried to shut down like my energy, my light, my way of being, like I've just suffered, because I felt like out of alignment, like I haven't accepted all parts of myself. Yeah.
Does anyone ever ask you questions? Like, do you ever answer the questions?
No, but I'm open to them. Yeah.
Do you want to do the time capsule one? I'm just very curious.
Oh, you know what? Yeah, I'll do the time capsule one. Thank you for asking me that. If I could put a message to that younger version of myself, wow, I didn't even think about this myself, so you caught me off guard. You know, I think I'd go back to a similar message to yours, like the worthiness. Something that really came to me this year was, in terms of worthiness, was you are worthy for the mere fact that life expressed through you, right? Because creation expressed through you, because life expressed through you, you are worthy. So always remember that. That's something that I will put in the time capsule. Like, you are worthy for the mere fact that life expressed through you.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because of that expression, you get to continue to be that expression.
I got goosebumps, girl. It's the realness. Yes. Thank you.
Yeah. I feel like my younger self would really like to hear something like that, because she was just so scared. Yeah. Well, Heather, thank you again. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for having this conversation and just shining your light and wisdom with everybody. I wanted to share you with the world, and you did us the honor. And yeah, I love what you do. I love that you empower women. I love that you empower like kids. You also empower kids, right? You're an instructor.
I'm a boxing and yoga coach. And I specialize in kids. Of course, adults, they're just big kids. But I love to work with kids. Yeah. And children will always keep you young, so stay around them.
I have to, so I believe that 100%. And where can people find you?
Please find me at Heather Thrills everywhere. TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all over the place. Yeah,
I love that. Heather Thrills. She definitely is a thrill, y'all.
I'm a thriller, baby. Thriller.
I'll do it with you. Yeah. Well, again, thank you for being here. And you guys can find Heather at Heather Thrills on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, at every social avenue.
Yes, all of them. We rockin'.
All right, people. Well, thank you again, and thank you guys for being here. If you enjoyed this conversation, please like, share it, and subscribe to the channel. All right. Bye.
Thank you.